I mean, today.
And Happy New Year, January the 1st. I can't believe I'm saying 2025. Good morning, gentlemen. Happy New Year to you too.
Good morning.
Yeah, I hope it was quiet and peaceful last night. Bring you up to date a little bit on my dumb butt. I kept telling Janet, I just feel like garbage. I feel bad. And then I sent the text last night during the ball game after they were down 14-0 and said, boys, I'll see ya. I don't feel good. I'm going to bed. Got up about midnight, went and tested, and the doctor's office will be open tomorrow, and I'm going to have to get me some Paxlovid, or however you pronounce it, because it didn't take but about a half a second for the red and pink stripe to come up. So it is what it is. So, but anyway, good morning, and I hope everyone has had a safe and happy New Year. Wow! Before we start talking about last night's game between Boise and Penn State, I do want to kind of start with a little, and I didn't do this in pre-production just a minute ago, but I tell you that during the South Carolina-Illinois game, when the coach for Illinois came across the field and was taunting Coach Beamer in South Carolina, I genuinely respect Coach Beamer's response and the way that, sometimes it's not a good look sometimes on TV to do that, but I love it. And if I'm playing for him, I know he's got my back. And Chuck just could not disagree. I think you could not disagree with me more.
Right. Well, but why? And I don't know the answer. Why was he across the field? Wasn't it an injured player?
Yeah, there was an injured player.
It's a heated moment. I don't mind South Carolina's coach. I do think he's over animated sometimes, because of recruiting.
Over animated?
He's the one out here doing music videos and sunglasses to try to get recruits. That's the stuff I don't like about him. Now, granted, to his defense, he's learned how to recruit in today's world. Because whatever reason, the kids, they like that stuff. You know what I mean? So I don't know if that's his actual personality or if it's him just going, hey, here's how you got to recruit. I don't know.
Well, let me ask you guys this. Is he building something in Columbia? I think that he is. In this crazy world, in this environment of college sports, I'm impressed.
I think he's reached the peak of what South Carolina can be. This year, I think, was the peak of South Carolina because, and don't get me wrong, they played really well late in the year. Illinois was just better than them yesterday. I'm on the Illinois bandwagon. I have been all year. I like watching them play. I think they play good, sound football. They're not world beaters. They're not gonna. You're not gonna sit here and be like, hey, they're gonna go into Eugene, Oregon, and go, let's pull the upset. But guess what? They're still a 10-win team, though. It's kind of a quiet 10-win team, and I've liked watching them play. But South Carolina is one of those teams, and they will always end up being this way. It's really hard. They're stuck right in the middle between trying to always financially as well compete with the Tennessees, Alabamas, Clemsons, Georgias, and they just can't do that. They just can't. And that's where that's what I'm saying. I think South Carolina has reached their peak of what they can achieve. And there's nothing wrong with 9-10 win season. That's not what I'm getting at. I just don't think they may be able to squeeze in at number 12 every now and then in the playoff. on the year that it's like, oh God, 9, 10, 11, and 12 all have 3 losses. I think that's kind of when they would ever be able to squeeze in.
Chucky?
Yeah, let's go back to the beginning, the genesis of this confrontation. Early in the game, when an Illinois player went down, as South Carolina was trying to go up tempo, Beamer was doing this. Like, are you doing this again? Look at this. Are you going to do something about it? The over-animated little bitch that he is, he started doing that. So all of a sudden, Belima sitting there looking at him. So when he come across the field, which was towards the sidelines of South Carolina later in the game, he looked at Beamer and went, he's really injured. Where's this animation now about this player? And Beamer started after him. But let me tell you about Beamer. He's one of those new generation people where he wants to act like he's going to fight. So he started towards Belima, and then he stopped to get right in front of the referee so everybody could hold him. And then he could act like he wants a piece of the action. Belima played at Iowa, defensive tackle. You don't want anything with Brett Belima.
Guys,
Want anything with him?
WWE, big dog, let's go.
Hey, there you go. That's what I like about it.
I'm not taking anything away from his coaching ability. I just, like I said, I think his defense is good. His defensive ends this year, his 2 defensive ends are very close to elite.
Then something happened in the game later on before this confrontation, and out on the field near the numbers, there's old Beamer sitting there doing all this stuff at the Illinois bench. I thought, what? And I'm like, what are you doing? He acts like a 12-year-old child. He's a bitch.
But here's the thing in his defense, though, and when I have no care for South Carolina. The kids nowadays that he recruits, they buy into that. And it's so once again, I don't know if that's his actual personality or if it's what, because think about it, his father never acted that way, but his father coached in a different era. He was one of the first coaches to get on the train of let's make a music video with our team and our recruits. And then now you see everybody else trying to do it. Like, so I give him credit for getting into the new age. I give him credit for a lot of things. He recruits well. I just don't think they have what it takes in Columbia to nationally compete year in, year out.
Okay.
I think they could be the old Mississippi State, to where Mississippi State would have that one year run where they're like, oh, they're in Atlanta in the SEC championship game. And then they're number 14 in the SEC for 3 years in a row. Then they're number 4. And you know what I'm saying? Like, I think that's kind of where they're at.
That's spot on, Jonathan.
And this was that year. I mean, they had a chance to win 10 games. And the thing that I get upset about college sports nowadays, not college sports, college fans, is if people really knew how hard it is to win 10 games, like actually to win double-digit games. That used to be a milestone for everybody.
Right.
If you won 10 games, you were damn good. Now it's if you don't win 14, then you suck. And so they had a chance to get that double-digit milestone. Credit to Illinois. Once again, I like watching Illinois play. Their quarterback Altmaier is not going to go out here and just light up the scoreboard. He's not. But he plays efficient. I love their tailback. So they're fun to watch. That was honestly that bowl game when the games came out. That was one of the ones I was most intrigued to watch because both teams were playing well. They really were. South Carolina, once again, they've got as close to elite defensive ends as you can get. Their defense is what holds them into the ball games. Hence, just like Penn State, their defense holds them into the ball games. Their offense is there to not mess up, for all intents and purposes. And their defense is what's going to help them in the next couple of years because they've got they got a lot of these kids coming back.
Yep. So, all right. So, 3 games today. You got Texas and Arizona State. to me, I don't know, the way that they seeded it was kind of crazy. The Ohio State and Oregon's probably your national championship game if it's seeded another way, and then Notre Dame and Georgia today. You got a 1:00 kickoff for Arizona State and Texas, and that's at the Peach Bowl in Atlanta, correct? Mm-hmm. You got Oregon and Ohio State in the Rose Bowl. And every time I say the Rose Bowl in Ohio State, Chuck dies just a little.
Mm-hmm.
Just a little. And then it's a Sugar Bowl, I guess.
Yeah.
Georgia and Notre Dame down in New Orleans. Last night in the Fiesta Bowl, Penn State 31, Boise State 14. Boys, I went to bed when it was 14-0, and then everything I've read since I got back up around midnight was, it wasn't. Jonathan says a 17-point game is a blowout, and I get it, but but they played well enough to not embarrass themselves.
Yes, and I'm saying when I say a blowout, I don't mean that it was just boring to watch because they had a chance at a certain point, but you could tell early. And this is, once again, I'm not taking anything away from anybody playing college athletics.
Excuse me.
You can tell a difference, a major difference between offensive line and defensive line, receivers, DBs, running backs, linebackers, quarterbacks, physical statures, and group of 5 and power 4. And Boise had a hell of a year. They did. But when you sit there and go, well, he's rushed for 125 yards or more in 13 straight games, an NCAA record, averaging 192.8 or whatever it was, rushing yards a game, 2.3 touchdowns per game or 3.2 or whatever it was, all this stuff. He should have won the Heisman, blah, blah, blah. Well, you know what? Last night proved it, that the Heisman winner was the actual Heisman winner. Because last night proved it. He ain't about that life. You fumbled twice in the first 2 times in the first 3 drives, and both of them were very, very user carry fumbles. It was not a torpedo. It was not a guy torpedoing and putting his helmet on the ball. It was just a slap of the ball, and they both just popped up. He's a great running back. But the bottom line is, last night proved just because you have a good running back, I can take you away. If my front 7, which Penn State's was, is better than your running back, you have no chance. Quarterback threw for 300 yards. Great. But you got beat by 17 points. And that's where I'm a believer now. I was before, but now it's more evident that the 12 teams were the right 12 teams, but they need to seed them off of actual seeding, not just because you won a conference championship in the Mountain West. That's just what it is. And the Mountain West conference champion should not get a bye over the Big Ten conference championship loser or the SEC conference championship loser. Not a chance in the world. Because if Penn State last night, Boise State hung in there. But if Allard doesn't fumble on his own read, they're about to go up 21-0. That game might end up 42-0.
Yeah.
They get a turnover, and you're going, this is about to get ugly. It's about to be 21-0 in the first 3 drives. It's about to get bad. He fumbles. It gave him a little bit of life. So I was not impressed with Boise State last night. I just wasn't.
And then 7 points came on that miss assignment where all that tight end on that wheel.
Yes. Great play call. Great play call. They caught him.
Penn State's defense going, who had?
They caught him in man-to-man coverage, and the linebacker got his eyes in the backfield. Great play call. But I was not impressed with Boise. If you were supposed to be the Heisman, everybody says, "Oh, you're the people's Heisman." Then you get at least 1 touchdown, and you have more than 40 yards going to the fourth quarter.
I thought it was a great effort out of an undermanned Boise State team who fought and had grit and just never quit, but they just didn't have the power to match up with Penn State. And the score's indicative. And if it wasn't for some of the screw ups on Penn State's side, they would have had 2 more touchdowns, Jonathan. When you watch it, it's like, yeah, this is a commanding win.
Penn State's right guard, number 77, had 30 penalties himself, 30 yards and penalties himself. Two of those stopped a touchdown drive.
Yeah, that was.
He is not having a good day. Yeah, they won, but by God, the meeting he's having today in that film room is not going to be fun.
A lot of answer for.
That's the stuff, because I'll be honest with you, watching that game last night, if I hadn't watched Boise State all year, there's no way in the world that I go, Ashton Jeanty was in the Heisman. It would have been, I'm looking at the quarterback going, this Maddox kid, he's got some grit about him. This kid's got some balls, standing in there taking some of these hits, moving around, trying to keep the game alive, because Jeanty had zero emotion last night. He was outmanned, outgunned from the first play when they said, we're going to run simple power. And Penn State said, bring it, big boy, and hit him in the face. And then 2 plays later, he fumbles.
Right. Their mission defensively, the players said this after the game, and James Franklin said it before the game, is that they're going to swarm Jeanty. He's a great player, but they are going to swarm him and tackle him. And the first guy all the time on Jeanty that arrived on the scene, he was to shoot the legs and hit those knees, and everybody else coming, taking any open spot on his body. And you could see it took Jeanty out probably midway through the first quarter. It was like,
he didn't want it. But that's my thing, is if you're supposed to be a Heisman front runner, future first-round draft pick, don't work that way, in my mind. So no, I'm not saying he's not a good back. I'm not trying to take anything away from him, but I'm very adamant and proving the point of level of competition. Playing Hawaii, playing San Jose State, playing Utah State is a lot different than playing the SEC or the Big Ten, and that right there proved the point. Go, you want to be this guy, blah blah blah. Go be a Derrick Henry. Go do it in the SEC. You know what I'm saying? Go be that guy. Go be a Dylan Sampson and go do it in the SEC.
I thought
he's Saquon Barkley and do it in the Big Ten. That's why I do not think he will be a superstar in the NFL. Last night proved it, that when he is talent for talent, he's just a guy.
I thought Jonathan was spot on when at the beginning of when they did all the pairings, and he didn't like the way the pairings were, and that he had mentioned a clear path for Penn State. I do see that now, what he said. I do. And maybe they'll address that after all this, saying, look, we've got to do a better job seeding these teams to make them more competitive. But, in playoffs, you always have some kind of blowout. Usually you do, not always. And then the assessment yesterday where Jonathan was talking about the game, how he saw the game unfold, pretty much followed script. And would have followed script if not for critical mistakes made by Penn State that would have put on at least 2 more touchdowns. And a defensive mistake out of their secondary, letting that guy out on the wheel, and nobody around him for 40 yards.
Because I look at it, when you're in a playoff game, don't get me wrong, Penn State's run game last night, I don't know if I'd have thrown the ball 1 time last night if I'm Penn State. Like, their run game last night was awesome. They ran the ball 41 times for 216 yards. Now, Drew Aller, he threw 3 touchdowns. That's great. 2 of those really good balls. But he ended up 13 of 25, and he only threw for 170. That's not going to win you a national championship. Because at some point in the national championship game, if you're there, you're going to end up being down and having to make throws. He made so many throws last night, and I was texting our Coach Seibert, our receiver coach, coordinator, who's a big Penn State guy. So I'm rooting for Penn State. And I'm sitting there going, what was that? What was the read? Why in the hell did he throw the ball like he threw it? Those are the things that I look at and go, you see the physical stature? Yes. You see the arm strength? Yes. You see those things and you go, that's a perennial first-round draft pick, blah, blah, blah. But then you look at Dylan Gabriel, who you go, him walking down the street, you don't know that he plays quarterback, is just precision accuracy. Put the ball where he wants to put it. In the timing of the throw. Not very many errant throws. Blah, blah, blah. Oh, that's why Oregon does what they do to people. You see what I'm saying? Like, that's where and I know why, but I'm not going to say it. I told him last night. It makes sense when I looked at their coaching staff. I'll say it that way. But it's one of those that I go, if they're going to win the national championship, because I said it very early, they had the easiest road to the Final Four. Now you're going to have to play it's Notre Dame or Georgia, and they got phenomenal secondaries or phenomenal back seven. It's going to have to be on you because those two teams can stop the run. Now he's going to have to play lights out. I don't know if he can do that. I don't know if he has that in him.
All right. So
that'll be a big game between, whoever wins between Georgia and South Bend Seminary.
He cannot help himself, I swear. So 1 o'clock, Atlanta in the Peach Bowl, Arizona State in Texas.
An old Tejas.
I am not so I don't know that it's a really good strategy to anger a team that is physically, again, I go back to when Coach Matthews, when we were down in Tuscaloosa, man, they look better in their uniforms than we do. I don't know that it's a really good thing to just disrespect those guys from Texas because
their defensive front four pretty darn good.
And I have grown to watch from just listening to you this year more than any other year when you talk about Coach Sark and the way that he calls his offense. And
before we get started, my caffeine and chaos is in the dishwasher. So to the folks at Caffeine and Chaos, I had to go with my Seattle Best mug, 24 ounces.
There you go. And you guys are probably on your 4th or 5th cup, but
I've already had that energy drink, and then now I'm on this.
You don't need an energy drink.
So
overdose.
So now I've lost my train of thought.
You're talking about Sarkisian.
Yeah, I think the thing that has impressed me so much is, man, they can throw the ball down the field and they do all that stuff in the way that they block the zone read. Because for their zone run, not an RPO, but their zone run, the way, at least what I see, and Jonathan and Chuck, you correct me here, is it's almost like a Vince Lombardi thing. It's a run to daylight. Yeah, there's a hole that's called, but you're going to run to daylight, and they're just going to block it as they do. But, man, the thing that impresses me more than anything is it's brilliant how he runs the screen game in the middle of all that. His screen game is a different level. Or am I missing that totally, man?
No, you're right. What I love about him is he loves tight end screens. But this is why, like, if I'm coming out of college or if I'm coming out of high school, today's world, wherever Steve Sarkisian's at is high on my list if I'm a high recruit. Like, I'm telling you, like, whoever, they need to take a look wherever he's at. Doesn't matter the logo on his hat, because he is an offensive – I hate to use the word guru, but just how he does things, because his way is not, let me throw a dart at the wall and call the play that it hits. There's a rhyme and reason why he's calling plays. His is, hey, here's my left hand, boom, I hit you with my right. It's a sleight of hand. All of his motions have a reasoning why they're doing them, whether it's for this game or not. It could have been because of what he ran 2 weeks ago or what he's going to run in 2 weeks or 4 weeks. There's always a rhyme and a reason behind it. And that's what I love watching him in the run game, is watching the motions to get a linebacker to take one step to let his tight end, tackle, or receiver have an angle on the block. That's what's fun to watch him, why it's fun to watch him coach. And I'm not a Texas fan, but I like watching Texas football now because of him. I do not like the state of Texas. I don't know why. Just never have. But watching wherever he's coaching at offensively is fun to watch because he sets you up with so many different things. Because if you notice, all of these teams are running the same screen now. The Niners ran it in the playoffs last year. It's fake the screen or fake a bubble to the left, whirl the bird, fake the free release, bubble to my tailback, pump it, throw the tight end right down the seam. Everybody runs it. That is a Steve Sarkisian play. The reason why it didn't work in the SEC championship game is because Ewers had an ankle brace and he just couldn't move. That's why he got sacked, because tight end's butt naked down the seam. Everybody go, and when I describe that, people go, well, doesn't that take a long? No, it takes 2 seconds. It's a pump, whirlybird pump right down the pipe, because the tight end stalk, go. It's the old school, back in the day, belly pop pass. That's all it is in today's world. It's how do I get there? And he's so good at that. And that's why, honestly, that's why I like watching them. They've got two. The funny part is their best tailback has been injured all freaking year. And they're doing it with their second and third string tailback. And now that starter's going to have a hard decision to make. Go, do I come back? Because these two dudes are balling right now. So I say all that to say this game could get ugly. And the deciding factor to me is the quarterback, because reports have now came out. It started at 4 million. Now it's all the way up to 6 million by an undisclosed school. We all know that it's Notre Dame, Ohio State, Oregon, or Carolina. We know it's down to 4.
Notre Dame.
No, but we know it's down to 4 teams. It's just which team. Well, what happens if he goes out here and just balls tonight? Well, that number just went from 6 to 7. What happens if they make it to the national championship game? Well, that number just went from 7 to 9. You see what I'm saying? Like, he can mess around and set himself up to get an unprecedented, I'm not saying I agree with it, amount of money that he might screw around and call for $10 million to go for 1 year of college football next year because of what he's able to do. He is right now legitimately playing free agency football that the better I play and the longer we play, my money goes up. It overnight jumped from 4 to 6 million because everybody's going, well, dude at Tulane, who's just okay, got $4 million from Duke. Well, why is he not getting more money? And then all of a sudden he got $2 more million. He just went up 33%. He goes out and balls tonight. And I'm not saying balls by going 400 yards, all this stuff. If he executes the game plan, he doesn't turn the ball over, he makes the throws he's supposed to make, right? And then he makes one, what they used to call Heisman moment, when like Joe Burrow did it in the SEC championship game. When you make one of those plays, then it probably just went from 6 to 7 today.
Chuck?
100% agreed. I don't know. The linchpin for all this madness would be Ewers. If he stays in college football and takes a sizable contract. Remember now, Oracle, Larry Ellison and his wife of Oracle founders, paid a freshman coming out of high school $12.5 million. Don't discount Michigan having them 1 year. So
that's true.
Underwood, because they're bound and determined to pay whatever it takes, not just on one player, on everybody.
That is a call Vegas, put $100 on a long shot, but in meaning because it's viable. Because you're right, because Orgy's leaving, Davis Warren graduates. Who they got? That's a damn good point.
Right. So anyhow, we'll find out if he goes anywhere other than Texas. That linchpin starts tumbling all over the country because, if it's Michigan, then it won't be so bad. But if it's Notre Dame, then what does Riley Leonard do? So then he leaves and goes to a college program, and you got all this madness happening. But be that as it may, I do want to mention before not taking this off, but my brother Kevin called me yesterday and was telling me on 97.7 The Ticket, the major big time sports radio station, they had two former NFL players, one in John Jansen, who played with the Redskins, on the line in Michigan. We're talking about they have learned that coming next year, that the NIL, that every major college program will get $22 million to spend on their NIL money.
Mm-hmm.
Now, follow me on this. I don't know how true this is. I'm throwing this out. But if you get 22 in, and that what they were saying is then the AD takes the 22 million and determines who in their program who gets what to spend on their players. So he may say 7 million to the football program or whatever the case may be. Now, my granddaughter, who reclassified from a junior to a senior so she could sign at NC State for soccer, was told that, her full scholarship, but the NIL money, there is something happening with the NIL money next year to where she'll get the money, but they were going to wait until next year to see how that falls out. Now, I didn't know what that meant at the time. So my brother Kevin said that they were talking about this, and so I went to our source. If you want to know stuff, go to John Truitt. And I went to Truitt. Now, he was partying. Let's just say he was nursing his hurt feelings after the bowl game yesterday. He says, I know a few calls I can make and to find out how true this is. I do know there's some things changing. But John Truitt told me over a year ago, he said, do not be surprised and they'll follow me on this, do not be surprised if you see the NCAA standing back, letting chaos happen. So they come in and say, boys, you can't do it. We're going to manage the NIL program for 10%. Now, you think about $22 million over what, 150 D1 programs, and they get 10% of that. And then we will distribute it according to your wishes, or this is how much your football program, everybody's programs are going to get the same. So, and it's moving directly to that. So Truitt's a guy that was a great source. So he's going to find out how true that is.
I disagree. Well, I don't take it back. I half agree, half disagree, meaning the top programs, because here's the thing. Yeah, they all get 20 million now. So if they're opening it up to 22, that's fine. But that's just what they get. That doesn't include all the collectives from the boosters of, oh, by the way, Tennessee's biggest booster owns the Cleveland Browns. They got money. Ohio State's got money. Michigan's got money. Right. Alabama's got money. Do I need – here's what I'm getting at. I can keep going on these teams that just have essentially endless bankrolls. Those teams are going to shoot the proverbial middle finger and go, we're off on our own. We're going to do our own thing. And that I keep hearing grumblings that the biggest spenders are going to go deuces. Texas A&M, Oklahoma, Tennessee, Alabama, Georgia, Florida, Michigan, Ohio State, Penn State. All these big money teams are eventually going to go, nah, we're not giving you $1. We're going to do our own thing. I don't agree with it, but that's what I keep hearing is that they're going to go, we're off on our own and we'll do our own thing because we don't need you. We have our own collectives, our own money, everything. Those teams don't need the 20 million.
Right. All I'm saying is this is what's being told on the and whether it goes that way, but just remember, I'll bring this situation up. What did we hear from Clemson and Florida State last year about we're going to leave the ACC, and the grumblings were loud, and the ACC said you ain't leaving anywhere.
Well, because those two teams don't have money though.
Right. But my point is that even if you have money, that I think that the power, I think it was you that said it to me, or maybe it was my brother. He said the NCAA is powerless right now, and that they are trying to get the power back.
They're trying, but here's the thing. The NCAA is, by legal definition, a nonprofit organization.
Right.
Okay. So they can try to get the power back, but when you got Texas A&M and Texas, right, and then you got Tennessee's and Alabama's and Auburn's got some money, but then you got Ohio State with endless money, Michigan with endless money. Those teams, what are you going to do? It's going to cost me $100 million to get out. Okay, well, I just paid a coach $96 to leave. Okay.
I think
they can threaten all they want
right.
to the big dogs, because the big dogs will call their bluff. Florida State does not have money. Miami does not have money. That's why their basketball coach resigned.
Mm-hmm.
They don't. Those teams will have to go, my bad. The big dogs are going to leave. But remember, what have I said for going on 8 years now? How many teams? It only takes how many to leave to start a whole new deal? 32, because that's how many professional teams there are.
Do you know
100?
Right. Do you know that what you have right now is a pro league? The endless transfers.
But guys, y'all are saying what I've been saying for 5 years.
I know, but it's pro.
And that's my point. Here's how the NCAA gets the power back. You ready? Mm-hmm. Exactly what I just said. 32 teams go off on their own, and the rest are back to the NCAA, where the NCAA has the power. If you want to be in one of the 32, you're considered a professional. You cannot come back and play NCAA football at Wake Forest, because they will not be one of the 32. That's where we'd be headed, but we kind of got off on a tangent.
Yeah, I'm gonna bring us back. The Arizona State, Texas. Who's going to win the football game, man?
I don't think it's close, Texas.
Same way.
Really?
Yeah.
Me too. But again,
I love the swagger of Arizona State. I love the players coming out with the confidence. But you know what?
Hey, you know what?
When your players,
old school here, you want to talk smack, have do something, having done something before you talk to smack.
Well, but that's my point. Is like I love that they're confident in their ability, but there's also a thing called false confidence, right? And so, I root for them. I think they're a great story. I think their coach has done a great job, but I lose respect for a coach when you have that being said, and the coach doesn't reel you in. You really, and I'm going to bring it back to this because I had to get off yesterday. You really think Deion Sanders would allow his players to say that and get away with it? No, not a chance. They're not going to go out here and be like, "Oh, I'm better than this dude." Blah 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 blah. I'm going to prove it. You should have been better all year. You should have proved it during the season. Don't say it when you're going to the bowl game. Don't be quiet all year. Don't not say a word all year about, you know what, I think I'm this and this, and I've done this and this, and blah blah blah. Cool. Just be consistent all year. Don't just randomly at the bowl game try to get publicity. Oh, because NIL deals are available. I can't respect that. I rooted for Arizona State all year. I thought it was a great story, but today Texas might just go ahead and instill their will early. Texas has something to prove to the fan base, and what would that be? Oh, that I can win a game in Mercedes Dome.
Right.
That is a narrative set in Texas's locker room. We got to go prove a point that we can win in this dome because, by the way, guess where the national championship game's played? In that dome.
Right.
Sweet.
So right. I think Texas. I'll say this. I think Texas by. I'm going at least 20.
Wow. Chucky.
Yeah, I'm in the same boat. I just think this is a blowout.
Okay.
We call it that, we always talk, don't let your mouth overload your ass. That's the old school way. And this coach doesn't go throw a pass or make the tackle or anything. He's putting his players out there. He's talking that stuff. Hey, look, that's fine. You got your team, but Texas is you're playing somebody who's about twice as good as you.
Yep. And they're already favored. They're favored by 13 points too.
Right.
Okay. 5 o'clock in the Rose Bowl.
Yes.
Ohio State and Oregon.
Hey, let's go.
Intriguing.
There's
Oregon
one thing that we should say about this game.
Oregon beat them early in the year. Did they play that in the shoe? They played that in Ohio. Where'd they play that? In Oregon. Okay. Man.
Guys, there's one way to look at this. Defense optional. Defense is optional today, guys. In that game, the over-under is 55. Guys, they could have the over-under total points combined at 55 and halfway through the second. That's how high-powered both these offenses are.
Who's the better football team, Chuck? And don't talk with your heart and your hatred. for the Buckeyes. Speak as someone who talk to me as Chuck, the sports editor.
Well, the guys from the Columbus State Penitentiary that are playing in this game. No, I think this is a very even. They proved it in their first matchup in Eugene. Home field advantage was not advantage Oregon. Ohio State played great, but I think it's an even game. To me, it's which line protects their quarterback. That's the difference. I think that right there in this whole football game they're evenly matched. And what line will protect the quarterback more to allow the quarterback to throw the football? They both can run the football. They both got great defenses. And as Jonathan seems to think, which I can probably concur and agree with him, who am I to disagree with him, is that this could be a game where you just say, don't worry about giving up 50 points.
Just go score.
We're going to score 51. Well, the team that you do that is that you got to make sure your quarterback stays upright. Mm-hmm. And Billy Howard's not a scrambler. Gabriel is. So he can flush out of the pocket and make something happen with his legs. Howard, in order for Ohio State to win, Ohio State's offensive line's got to keep Billy upright and allow him to throw clean passes, not on the run. If Oregon's going to win, they got to, in the pocket, because Gabriel will make plays, that Gabriel's got to be able to throw that ball. And he's not a tall kid. So he's got to get that ball out into those weapons in the secondary. If you're going to attack Ohio State, you're going to do it against their secondary, in my opinion.
My thought is you always remember the last thing that you've seen. And when I saw Ohio State and Michigan, I thought, well, I don't know that the Buckeyes are as physical as everyone said and the coach said through that. And then they went out and I don't – here's the thing. They didn't just beat up Tennessee. They beat them in every way physically that you can. They beat them from pillar to post, just out physical them from the first play on. I guess, can they play that physical against Oregon? And can they bring the same emotion that they brought against Tennessee to be that team that we saw last week?
Yeah, because here they've had 3 goals all year, and they've said it. Beat Michigan, didn't do it. Win the Big Ten, didn't do it. Win a national championship. Well, you know what? They got a chance to win a national championship and then go back to Columbus, Ohio, and go, all right, we did not beat our rival, but we got a trophy to come home with us. That's all you got to be said in that locker room. That's it. Because I'm looking. Here's what I look at. And I think this is fun right here. When they played on, well, let's see. This was week 7 or 8, one of the two. Howard, 28 of 35, 326, 2 touchdowns, 9.3 yards per completion. Gabriel, 23 of 34, 341, 2 touchdowns, 10 yards per completion. Team, 33 rushes for Ohio State for 141 yards, 4.3 average with 2 touchdowns. Oregon team, 31 rushes, 155 yards, 5 yards per rush, 2 touchdowns. Guys, these are the 2 best teams in college football.
Right.
And look how evenly matched they are. Oregon's got the advantage. I think he's the better quarterback. Ohio State's got the better receivers. Running backs, I think if you put them man for man, Ohio State's are better. But when you put room for room, it's even. When you go room for room, this is the one that I'm excited to watch.
Who wins? All right, who wins, guys?
I got Ohio State. I do.
I have Oregon.
Okay.
I think, and you know what? I mean, honestly, what this comes down to is the old school game maximums in Knoxville. The team that makes the fewest mistakes will win. It doesn't matter if it's 100-99 or 2-0. Whoever turns the ball over the least today will win, because both teams have great defenses, but both teams have elite offenses.
I'm wondering the layoff of a month just over a month on Oregon playing, how that will affect them at the start of the game, and does being that Ohio State has, excuse me, has played the game against Tennessee. Now, I do know Oregon and Penn State played for the conference championship on the 5th of December, so just under a month.
Yeah.
How that will affect them. 2, being a connoisseur of the Rose Bowl, it is notorious for Ohio State or the Big Ten to have a slow start in the Rose Bowl. It's just a different environment. But if and I do recall a number of times where Ohio State in the second quarter just suddenly just got ignited and just lit it up. But the first quarter is always just trying to feel out each other, and then it gets dicey in the second quarter. Ohio State can win this football game. It wouldn't surprise me. I'm going to pick Oregon. But, as you guys have said, I did want to add something about this last time you seen them. The problem in playing Michigan is that Ryan Day has bought into this mantra that you've got to win the running game battle to win this game. When you have 4 number 1 wide receivers that are going to number 1 draft picks in the wide receivers, you don't have to run the football. If they can't defend your pass, throw it every time if you have to. Score all you want. You don't have to run the football. Lloyd Carr said that a long time. Michigan football is rushing the football. No, Michigan football is designated as winning football. So sometimes coaches can buy into poop and absolutely just, you take your team out of the game. Think about that. Ohio State against the marginally average, let's say above average defense, Michigan, only scored 10 points, missed 2 field goals. So let's say they made those 2 field goals. They win the game 16-13. Mm-hmm. Hello? That's not a lot of points for Ohio State because they were running the football. They took Howard out of the game, and they were running the football. If Ohio State lights it up in the air, they're going to win they're going to beat Oregon.
All right. You ready? I'm just going to pull out straight statistics real quick. Okay. 17 carries, 83 yards. Three catches, 46 yards. It's Travion Henderson as a freshman in the Rose Bowl and Ibuka as a freshman in the Rose Bowl. Quarterback that game, C.J. Stroud, 37 for 46, 573, and 6 touchdowns. That's the last time Ohio State's played in the Rose Bowl. And they've got players who have experience in the Rose Bowl. Get your mind right, Oregon. Ohio State, I'm going to tell you, now obviously C.J. Stroud way better than Howard. Howard, if Howard just puts the ball to Carnell Tate, Ibuka, and Smith anywhere in their vicinity, it's a catch and a potential touchdown.
Right.
Any moment. That's the reason why I got Ohio State is the last time Ohio State played in the Rose Bowl,
excuse me,
they threw for 573 yards, rushed for 110. Jackson Smith and Jigba, 15 catches, 347 yards.
Well,
that can be that stat line. I'm not saying 300 yards receiving could be the stat line, but a deal like that, 15 catches, could be Smith or Ibuka today.
Well, I've got it on good authority. It's going to be quack, quack, the Ducks by 1,000 points.
Right
now,
there, baby.
Hey, Ephraim Tice, buy Ducks by 1,000. He knows what he's talking
and you guys made John Taylor sick.
What I'm getting at is, and I know we're going to talk about the Georgia Notre Dame game next, but it's one of those. It's like, why can't the Rose Bowl this year be the 8:00 game? Because this is the one everybody wants to watch. Mm-hmm. You know what I'm saying? Like, don't get me wrong, it's Georgia Notre Dame, it's cool, but that game might end up being like 9-6.
And it may be that down the road, but look, 5:00 all the time.
But you know what I'm saying? But it's Guys, you got the two best teams. I don't care what seed they are. These are the two best teams in college football. They were for 97% of the season, if not more.
Mm-hmm.
Give them the premier game time slot and let the people, meaning me, enjoy this game late and not have a letdown of Georgia Notre Dame after.
Okay. Now we're going to move on to Georgia Notre Dame. The Peach Bowl. You're familiar with the Peach Bowl?
Oh no, this is the Sugar Bowl.
Oh, crap.
The Peach Bowl is 1 o'clock.
That's a COVID moment. Sorry. Georgia and Notre Dame. I'm going to say this because I'll leave a lot of the breaking down and the analyst stuff to you too. I don't think that Georgia's going to have a drop off at quarterback. I think there's the possibility that Georgia will be better at quarterback than when the Beck kid was in there. And I'm not talking bad about the kid. I just think that he's not very athletic. He didn't play very well at all this year, except for little spots. And I think this guy gives Bobo and them different options in the RPO. He gives them I just think that Georgia can be better offensively than with Beck. But I am sold on the fact, and this started when John Taylor sent the first text in early in the year, number 8, the safety, the free safety for Notre Dame is a man, and he played at Irvington High School for up there with John Taylor and those guys. And we've said all year their defensive line is pretty good, but man, their back seven is different. Notre Dame's back seven is just different.
I mean, how when you
cut out?
I mean, when you watch Notre Dame play, you gotta. It's a whole entire year of not playing. They have something like around the 60th strength of schedule. The teams that they play, just go through it, is their overall winning percentage for the whole years is sub 500.
No. You better go back to the energy you had about Indiana, because Indiana's was worse. I don't want to hear that. Indiana's was worse, and you were defending the piss out of Indiana.
Right. And I'm saying that, maybe that Jonathan was right, but Notre Dame hasn't played anybody. So here's the game where they go up against Georgia, who can smack them in the mouth.
Yeah.
Watch this.
Georgia's going to win.
I don't think so. What's Notre Dame? What is Notre Dame's advantage?
They're back seven.
That they got the Pope and the Vatican on their side, and they bring in referees.
What's this though? All right, so their back seven is their advantage. Honestly, what's this? But what does Georgia not have?
Elite receivers.
So which now tells you they can do what from a free safety and strong safety standpoint. Now they get to play a disguised cover 4, which is what Texas runs, and get their safeties in the box in the run game. That's what Texas does to everybody, unless they can throw the ball all around the park. They did it to Clemson because they said, Clemson, you can't throw the ball. Well, that's where Notre Dame's going to have the advantage. Doesn't have elite receivers. They're not playing Ohio State. They play Ohio State. Now they're having to go, oh, crap, we got to play a different coverage. They're playing Georgia, who their targets are tight ends in the flat and zone read with Stockton. I agree with you. I think Stockton has a chance to be better than Beck, but Stockton hadn't been in the light yet. He hadn't been under the pressure of a 4-quarter ball game, like against you know what. Last time he played, it was just, hey man, I don't know what I don't know. I was preparing to play, you don't know, blah, blah, blah. So I'm just going to turn and run if I have to. When the game got on when the game was on the line, he panicked and threw a pick. If Texas's DB is not selfish and turns and blocks the tight end, Texas wins that ball game because he blindly turned and threw it. That's the stuff that I think is going to hurt Georgia tonight. Is his we don't know how his poise is going to be. Do I think he's a better athlete? It's not even close. Do I think he has better arm talent? It's not even close. Do I think he has a chance to run the offense very efficiently? Yes, but he's never done it yet. That's the thing. Those eyes are going to go from here to there real big, real quick. Then he's got to settle in. So does he make a mistake, like a costly mistake, before he settles in? That's what's going to determine the early part of this game.
Chuck?
Yeah, Georgia wins in a surprising blowout. They beat Notre Dame. I think Kirby has been in this. These players have had this experience. Notre Dame has not.
I give you that.
And when you talk about not having been in this situation, there's a lot of players on that Notre Dame roster who have never been in these situations. There's a lot of players on Georgia's team that have been in that situation. I think they command the running game. I think Kirby Smart is extremely smart, pun intended. And I think that Georgia asserts their authority and dominance and wins this game convincingly.
All right, so here's my question then. You're saying Kirby's been there, Notre Dame's coach has not been there. So what's the difference in Ryan Day being in the Rose Bowl and blowing people out and Lanning not, and you're not picking Ohio State?
Well, you know the reason.
It's the same thing. He's been there and he's been there and put up 50 points in the Rose Bowl and won. And guess what? And he's got about 4 starters that were on that team that played significant playing time as freshmen.
I don't want to hear that stuff about Ohio State.
I'm just asking.
I'm
just asking because you said Kirby's been there. He hasn't. Ryan Day's been here and done that. Ryan Day's been here, done that. Oregon hasn't.
But it's Ohio State.
About my analysis on Ohio State. Oregon's going to win that football game, and so is Georgia.
Hey, now that's pretty good.
Neither of y'all saw that coming.
No. That's pretty good though. So I don't want to get into the seedings and stuff because we've kind of gone over that, and hopefully they'll make changes as we move forward. I think I do have a question though, because Jonathan always talks about the Power Fours and the other people. It has the NIL and the open transfer portal. Is it not leveling the playing field, but at least making it more even between the Power Fours and the non-Power Fours?
No, because the Power Fours have more money. I mean, it's that simple. They got more money. They have bigger stadiums, which now instantly generates more revenue. They have bigger boosters. They got more money. I mean, guys, let's just look at the history of it. Look at Liberty last year. Oregon completely annihilated them in the Fiesta Bowl. Liberty was undefeated. They had no right being there. That is not a slight on Liberty. I'm not taking anything away from playing Division I football. That's not what I'm getting at. At a certain point, it's a different level and a different stage. It's just what it is. The way to fix it, in my opinion, is to go away from Group of 5 or Power 4, and it's just East and West, and everybody you essentially are like the NFL, and you just play who you play. Then you could eventually start leveling it out. But until you don't, I'll go Boise this year. When you're playing Hawaii and San Jose State and Utah State, because it doesn't prepare you to play a Penn State. It doesn't. And there's a reason why they go to Penn State and they didn't go to Utah State. There is a reason. You know what I'm saying? That's my thing. So no, I don't think the NIL is starting to level it. If you want to know my personal opinion, I think it's starting to separate them farther because kids are just chasing the money and they're going to the place that's got the most money. And they'll end up going to the Boise States or somewhere as a last year grad transfer with, all right, now I hadn't really played much. Now I'm going to go, but I've got my money before then. I went to the Texas or I went to the Penn State or I went to the Ohio State or wherever it was and got my money. I transferred after a year, got another money, transferred again, got more money. Okay, now I'm going to go play. I don't think it's leveling the playing field. I think if nothing else, it's going to further separate everybody because of, especially if Quinn Ewers gets this type of money. Look at Tulane's quarterback. He's getting $8 million guaranteed contract, by the way, over 2 years to go to Duke. So imagine what these teams that aren't Duke, that have Texas A&M, Texas, Tennessee, Bama, Ohio State, Michigan type of money are about to do. So they're going to steal all those kids. So it's going to even further separate us at a certain point, because anybody that goes to the group of 5 and plays well is instantly gone.
Chuck, are you in agreement or disagreement with that?
No, I'm agreeing with Jonathan. I was going to bring up this. Remember the Wake Forest quarterback that I called Captain Interception? He ended up transferring to Texas Tech. And I remember when I said, this guy cannot play D1. He's not even a 1AA. He's a D2 or D3 quarterback. He's 5'10" and a half, 5'10" and a half. And he can't finish a game without throwing 3 picks. But he ends up at a Power 5 school, Texas Tech. How's that work out? This crazy stuff that's happening with these NILs. I think that the transfer portal, I think that because the money's there for the really good players and that they'll take anything that they've got, these players, for example, this Mateer kid at Washington State that transferred to Oklahoma. I mean, he was just a good quarterback at Washington State, but to be called an SEC quarterback and they're, oh my God, this guy's so great.
Well, in here, I'll add to the point of where I think it's going to further separate Western Carolina quarterback Cole Gonzalez. He went to Oklahoma. In case you're wondering, you're going from Western Carolina to Oklahoma. Phenomenal. But Oklahoma just signed 2 quarterbacks and they got a returning starter. You're right. 3rd, if not 4th on the depth chart, but he got his money.
Well, Jackson Arnold.
And that just took away Western Carolina's dude at quarterback.
They lost Jackson Arnold. He went to Auburn. They had that freshman quarterback, Young. Yeah. Okay. And he started.
Which he's the returning starter, and then they've signed 2 in the portal plus this kid.
Right.
So what I'm saying is that's where I say the teams that got the money are going to further separate themselves at a certain point, because Western Carolina they were able to compete at the FCS level with this Gonzalez kid.
I'm thinking
now he saw the bag and left.
I think Venables is coaching for his job this year.
I agree with that.
It's a madhouse in Norman, Oklahoma. It's a madhouse.
I'm just saying that to say that's why I think it's separating rather than bringing people closer together.
Okay.
Is because you're going to see the teams that have the most money go pay for the players that they want, and the kids are going to go, okay, bye, because they can now. They're allowed to now.
I'm going to say a couple of things, then we got to get out of here. I know everybody's got their stuff to do today, and the kickoff is in less than 2 hours for the start of our 3 games.
And my butt's on the couch all day today.
I think this. And Jonathan will smile when I say this name. Excuse me. Mr. Sanderson down in Knoxville. He loved Tennessee. Sandman.
Mm-hmm.
He started going to the games in Knoxville when he was a boy, and I don't think he ever missed a game home and away from, he and his wife and his family, they worked to be able to go to the Tennessee and support the Volunteers, kind of be around the program. Just an amazing guy. God rest his soul. I love that man. But I say that to say that people like Sandman that loved the programs We're going to start losing those people if this doesn't change, because if I'm a fan, what am I a fan of? Some kid's going to come in here and get a bucket of money and then turn around next year and leave. What am I a fan of?
Well, I'm
not a fan of that.
It's professional sports.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. But the difference is it's professional sports without the contract. At least when you sign your contract, you're going to be here for a certain amount of time. This is just 365 days a year free agency, and it's garbage. And again, I want the kids to do what get their money, but I think this, and I'm going to say this: a year from now, on January the 1st, 2026, when we are going over the quarterfinals, my prediction is that it will change. That they're going to have bylaws, regulations before next year.
They can't. Here's why they can't. What it goes back to, and hell, you taught me this. It's easier to loosen than tighten the reins. It is. So the second that they went from A to Z with nothing in between, the NCAA was openly admitting, yep, we were hoarding money from these players and letting coaches do whatever the hell they wanted to do. Coaches had all the power over the players. You couldn't transfer. If I wanted to transfer home because of blah, 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 or I had a teammate in college, David Ligon. He wanted to transfer home to Memphis his last year just because he was homesick. He was tired of it. He knew I'm going to play in the NFL. He just wanted to go home, be around his family. And Philip Fulmer said, nope, we play Memphis there. Even though Memphis was 132 out of 132, I'm not letting you go there. That's what the NCAA used to let happen. So the NCAA openly letting all this stuff happen, openly admitted, without saying it, that they were wrong for all these years. Nothing's going to change because they have to let this happen. They have to let it happen to make everybody happy for how long. Jesse Mahalona, number 55, D tackle, went to Wendy's. He went to Wendy's, and the cashier was like, "Oh my God, it's Jesse. Can you sign this picture for me?" He's like, "Yeah, no problem." They gave him a cheeseburger.
John, why are you calling me?
I'm not. Just mute that. I'm not. So listen though, and he signed his autograph, and they just happened to throw a cheeseburger in there. He got suspended for 2 games because NCAA said, "Well, it was improper benefits." That's why nothing's going to change, is because they were doing it for so long to every player at every level in every sport that they have to let the players get what they want for a long time to essentially make up for it. So when they do eventually come up with something, which I think is going to be the NCAA imploding, that it's, all right, well, we've had our fill now. We're good. Because you can't look at a kid now and go, Underwood at Michigan. Well, you got a $12 million deal. Well, nothing was signed about a contract. You can't make him legally go back and do it now. Legally, you can't. You can't. Once it's agreed upon, now I can't go and say we're going to sign a contract. You don't get your money, because that's where a lawsuit happens. Look at Florida. Look at Florida State basketball coach getting sued. You're looking at more and more lawsuits. You try to do that. So there will be no regulations. There will not be. Or if there are, there will not be any for any already existing college athlete. It'll only be for the future going forward. But then those players are going to go, hold on. Well, why do I have to be held to this standard, but my teammate doesn't? I'm going to sue you. Diego Pavia, Vanderbilt quarterback, suing the NCAA for JUCO not to count. And they said, you know what? You're right. It shouldn't count, because the NCAA at this moment for so long, every player, go ask them, calls it the National Communist Athletic Association because of how they treated every player. We weren't allowed to do jack crap. They literally would have people on campus that were hired by the NCAA to go watch and see if you drove a new rental car. Because if you did, you had to get investigated because we thought that was an improper benefit. We're going to see if you get suspended. For what? Because my car's in the shop and they gave me a rental for the day? That's what they used to do. That's why there will be no regulations next year, because they know. And with them ruling on NCAA or the JUCO and the NAIA not counting, that is once again another open admission without saying it that, yeah, we've effed up for a long time. You caught us with a hand in the cookie jar again and again. We're going to let this kid from Texas go get a $6+ million deal to play college football. That's why there'll be no regulation. They can't. The only regulation is going to be the NCAA has to either implode or the top 32 teams branch off and they're paid, and then the other teams can go back. But there won't be any, you got to play in the bowl game. You got to do this, and this, because then they're going to go, okay, fine. Make me sign the contract that says I got to play in the bowl game. I want X dollars more, or I'm going to go somewhere else, and then I still get the same money without playing in the bowl game. There's always a way around it because the NCAA screwed up for so long. So long. That's why the football game, it took a decade to come back out because they were like, how do we do this to not get in trouble? Oh, by the way, did y'all hear how much they offered each player to be in the game? $600. They only offered these players $600 to be in the game. You know how many players were like, shove it? $600 and we know what you're making? That's why I'm with you. There should be, but there won't be because they were for so long. I've got teammates and I got stories for days on how they treated us at Tennessee. And I just gave you 2 examples of guys getting suspended, or one suspended and one not being able to transfer because the coach is like, Memphis literally is the last place team in FBS football, like legitimate, but we don't want you to transfer there because you may help them. Or what if I want to go home because my brother is sick? Well, I don't care. I don't want you to go. Well, what if I'm in, like, say I'm super sick? Well, I still don't want you to go. And go watch the Cam Newton documentary. Urban Meyer was like, you're not transferring to any of these schools. You have to go play JUCO if you want to leave here. I'm not letting you go somewhere else. That's not right. But then they can leave. They can do – Jimbo Fisher can break the rules and not get suspended and they get a $96 million buyout. That's why there will be no regulations until the coaches are regulated and the coaches have to abide by their contract and the coaches have to have suspensions and the referees have to have suspensions for blown calls that ruin games. It'll never happen. I think there should be. I want to say it that way. But I'm telling you why it won't be.
Chuck,
there should be. I 100% agree. There should be.
Right.
I have nothing to say.
No, I mean, Jonathan, he's saying there should be, but it won't be.
Yes, there should be 100%. There should be something that says, David Crompton, you signed with the University of Tennessee for whatever. If you don't play in the bowl game, you don't get this money, or you got to pay this money back, or whatever, or you have to stay for 2 years as long as you're, if you're academically eligible. Whatever. There should be, but I don't think there will be.
Okay. Well, men, a lot of football to watch today. I look forward to.
I'm excited today.
I look forward to the many intelligent, well thought out text that we,
especially during the Rose Bowl from one specific individual on this stream right now.
Yeah, and they're not called the Buckeyes. That's all I've got to say about that.
Yep. But today will be fun, and I want to reiterate that I agree there should be regulations. I just don't think there will be because if people really knew how, as you can just hear it from me, hell, I hadn't played college football in 16 years, whatever it's been. The passion behind the players that got the generations of these players that got screwed over so long from the NCAA. Look at Reggie Bush. They said, hey, man, you had a car, so we're taking your Heisman Trophy, but we're going to let Joe Blow down here get $6 million. Got people on board for it, and they're literally Reggie Bush is suing the NCAA over money that he, quote unquote, lost from having his Heisman taken away. Good for him. Take their money. They took yours.
Yep.
I think there should be regulations, but then as soon as they try to, there's going to be a lot of these really smarter than me people that go, ooh, there's a loophole for a lawsuit for this. There's a loophole for a lawsuit for this. loophole for lawsuit for this. And next thing you know, NCAA's got 100 lawsuits against them, from including current players. I mean, hell, there's current players on the roster at Florida State suing their own basketball coach. By the way, you got to go to practice with that guy, and they're in the middle of a lawsuit against him.
Crazy world.
Now, that would be an interesting, I want to be a fly on the wall practice one day. I'm just saying.
Anyway, guys, we're going to get out of here. I hope, my situation is just, I hope I get to feeling a little bit better. I think I will. Get me some medicine. Chuck, anything before we get out of here?
Texas, Oregon, Georgia.
Who do you got? Who do you got?
I got, man, that Oregon Ohio State game, but I go back, and the last thing that I saw was Oregon just physically beating who I thought up front was one of the top 2 or 3 defensive lines and linebacker core in the nation in Tennessee. So I don't know that they're going to score, all those points. I know they're going to score some points, but I've got Ohio State in a close football game, just because the last thing I saw last week.
Who the other two?
Texas wins. I think, and again, I think Arizona State made a horrible mistake by putting a bigger chip on Texas's shoulder. You don't want to make the bully. When the bully turns around and starts punching you back, sometimes the best thing to do is be quiet and not spit into the wind. God, I've got my
Notre Dame, Georgia.
Oh, I got Georgia, because I think that this kid is going to make enough plays to win the football game.
So I'm the only one here going Notre Dame. I got Texas, Ohio State, Notre Dame.
And remember this: pitchers and catchers report in a month.
Yep. All right. So last question, I promise. Who does Penn State have a better chance of beating, Notre Dame or Georgia?
Notre Dame.
Because they play the winner.
Notre Dame.
They have a better chance of beating Notre Dame.
Okay.
Yeah. Because again, at the end of the day,
I can't disagree with that.
At the end of the day, probably Jimmy's and Joe's. Georgia's probably got better Jimmy's and Joe's than anybody.
They're up there. They're up there with Ohio State outside of the receiving corps.
Yeah,
Ohio State's receiving corps are just on a totally different level.
And we'll get back and hopefully we can recap this thing tomorrow. Guys, have a great day. I'm going to get down here and get me some medicine. I'm about done.
Happy New Year, guys.
Happy New Year, Chuck. Happy New Year, Jonathan. You guys have the best day. See you later.